Hey, this is Matt once again. Welcome back to another video. This is the paid request. This time for Jonathan. Thank you so much for that. And for those interested in requesting any type of videos, topics, reactions, commentaries, reviews, or re-reviews, pretty much anything, feel free to send it either directly to my PayPal or join my Patreon. Both links are down below in the info box. And this is for Teen Kong Lives from 1986, which... this is one I remember seeing as a kid. I remember the VHS tape or Teen Kong looked like from a horror film, staring into your soul from the VHS cover, just staring into you, ready to eat you up, it seems. And when I saw this as a kid, I did not even know. I knew of the 30s Teen Kong. I grew up with that the most as a kid, from 1933. But I didn't even know the 70s one existed. So I'm watching Teen Kong Lives, which is a sequel to that, and the movie begins with the ending to that movie. So I guess as a kid I thought, okay, they're just redoing the ending of the 33 film, but they just have these new scenes. I never even knew Teen Kong Lives was a sequel. And it's such a weird idea every step of the way for this movie. First off, to do a sequel to the 1976 film, which wasn't really much of a hit, or at least as much as they wanted. I mean, it wasn't this gargantuan box office phenomenon. And the critics were, at best, mediocre in terms of reviews. I think it was nominated or won an award for the effects, but it was pretty much like a dwindling response from the film. So the fact that Dino De Laurentiis and crew felt, let's do it again, and then they get the same director who did the 76 film, same guy who directed The Towering Inferno, which I like The Towering Inferno, but... and then we're going to wait 10 years after the fact. Because that was 76, give or take. This is 86. And... number one, maybe effects looked a little bit more up the stuff in 76, looked a bit old hat in 86. Because the effects really are not that impressive on the gorilla, well, I say gorilla, but the Teen Kong and Lady Kong, the effects don't seem all that. The plot is absolutely ridiculous. I mean, that's the thing, let's have an idea where after Teen Kong landed, seemingly dead, somehow he got into a coma, and he's been in a coma for 10 years, and in life support, and literally Linda Hamilton from the Terminator is one of the surgeons, and Kong needs a heart transplant. In order to do that, he needs a blood transfusion. So thankfully they're able to find Brian Kerwin's character, who's this adventurer. Brian Kerwin's an actor I'm not too familiar with. I think the only thing I've seen him in other than this was, I believe he played Robin Williams' dad in Jack. He's in Borneo. There's a Lady Kong who, that effect doesn't look that great, Lady Kong. And give her fucking ape titties. I didn't need to see ape titties, but now I saw really flabby ape titties. The type that if it droop any lower, you have to do a fruit roll up to roll them back up. So they get Lady Kong there to do the blood transfusion, and then they'll have this big, fake, the artificial heart. Like a giant artificial heart, and giant, like scalpels, giant. It's to the point that it almost seems like this would have worked better as a parody. It would have worked better if this was a comedy, a spoof on monster movies. And yet the actors, whether it be, they get the makers of Airplane or something, get people like Leslie Nielsen to star in it, or that maybe it would have been a bit better. Because it's hard to take any of this seriously. Now, don't get me wrong, there's a bit of entertainment value in the film, with the audacious nature of what they're doing in terms of story. But at the same time, a lot of it does come off as rather dull and boring, considering the outrageousness of the setup, because there's not a whole lot of action until you get to about the mid to the third act point. Linda Hamilton and Brian Kerwin, they don't really have chemistry with each other. Linda Hamilton is pretty bad in this, and she's great in the Terminator and Terminator 2. She's kind of out of her element, or just with the dialogue she's given to say, it's just, I don't know if anybody could have made this work. So Linda Hamilton just comes off as a bit wooden in her performance, but again, you try saying some of this shit. Brian Kerwin, I was indifferent on him. It felt like if you had someone a la Michael Douglas or someone of that nature, would have been much more of a noteworthy role. But like I said, with the type of role and script, I don't know if anybody could have saved it. Other people recognize one of the head doctors who's like the boss of Linda Hamilton. I remember him as Mr. Page from Whoopi Goldberg's Jumpin' Jack Flash. He played Whoopi's boss in that movie. Another guy I recognize later on is John Ashton from Beverly Hills Cop. 1 and 2, he was a guy partnered up with Judge Reinhold. And those two cops in Beverly Hills team up with Axel Foley in Beverly Hills Cop 1 and 2. So John Ashton, he was also in Midnight Run. Robert De Niro, he plays a lieutenant colonel that goes a bit mad to take down Khan. In a way, kind of a precursor to Samuel Jackson in Conestoga Island, in a way. They're both military guys that really gun-ho to take down Khan. Like I said, it's like someone looked at John Ashton's character and said, let's put that with Sam Jackson in that newer King Kong movie. I mean, some of the dialogue, like I say, they trap Lady Khan with they keep her fenced in with bulldozers, and they try to dope her food, while the actual King Kong, they succeed with the transplant. He wakes up, hears, smells whatever Lady Khan in trouble, goes to her, a little bit of destruction. As the guard says, the other monkey's gone, ape shit. And Khan rescues Lady Khan, puts her in like a honeymoon bride type of hold, and wanders off to Honeymoon Ridge. And the way they two try to flirt with each other with a bit of hugging and monkey love just comes off as rather ridiculous. And that does kind of bring into question how maybe we kind of will enjoy or like certain Godzilla movies. And you look at some Godzilla movies that have either that campy quality or the low budget effects for its time, which have a charm to them, and why is it that I'm more lenient, or others are more lenient towards them than King Kong Lives? Was because we just expect more out of King Kong Lives, or just because the destructions seem a bit more fun in the Godzilla movies, and the look of Godzilla seem a bit more unique compared to this, monkey in a suit, guy in a monkey suit type of thing. I mean, there is some moments that made me chuckle unintentionally, like the fact that at one point Khan leaps into the water, bangs his head, and I guess is knocked out or disappears for 9 months or something? Because they mentioned, she hasn't eaten in 3 months. So it's been a long time. It's kind of iffy on how much time has gone by. And all this time, no one noticed a giant fucking gorilla, giant fucking King Kong going around doing shit. I mean, you say, well, he's hiding over here to eat alligators. Which is the point he gets these 4, they're rubber toys. They look like rubber toys. He puts all 4 of their tails in his mouth. And he's tearing them all in his teeth. It just looks ridiculous. I mean, probably the most noteworthy scene when I saw this as a kid is with the potbelly rednecks. The Goodum boys trying to take Khan down, trap him in rocks, fuck with him, burn part of his face, and Khan gets pissed. And that's the other thing, is that at times, which I guess another thing they carried over for Coastal Island, it could be rather violent. Like they did Coastal Island, the whole Cannibal Holocaust moment. If you've seen Coastal Island, you know what scene I'm talking about with the... Ugh. Here, I remember as a kid being a bit disturbed with King Kong taking this asshole redneck and break him in half. And when he breaks him in half, you see a bit of blood stump. A guy screaming bloody murder, and it's like this bloody here, bloody. It's like he just tore that guy in half. Now there's another guy he eats, but you tell it's an iffy effect where the blue, I don't know, it's green screen, blue screen, the person's died exactly in the same frame, like you could tell in modern times, but he swallows the guy up. I don't know, but the one where he tears the guy apart, that seemed more creepy to me. I mean, maybe nowadays it looks silly to people, but just the idea of just being torn in half that easily, and I don't know, just something about that still creeps me out. I don't know what it is. And then the other guy he eats, and he pits his teeth to get the guy's cap out. Maybe if it went in more that direction to see more of that exploitation flavor of King Kong, maybe that could have made this even more unique and fun and entertaining, but like I said, sadly, a good chunk of the film is just rather dull. And I think it needed to be even crazier. It needed to be even more insane. It needed to be even more exploitive. Even more exploitation. Even more... I think if it kind of accepted the ridiculous nature of it, if it accepted the fun, if it accepted how batshit insane this idea was, I think that would have made much more of a successful venture. Like, we know this is ridiculous, so you get actors that if you had actors like Linda Hamilton and Brian Kerwin, they're pretty, again, boring love story, not much chemistry with each other. But if you had people that were just outrageous or entertaining, or if you had, I'm trying to think of, like I said, if you had even like a Leslie Nielsen, or you had a, I'm not saying he had to be Frank Drebin in it, but yeah, that type of actor, or that type of stuff going on, I think that would have been fun to see. I think that would have been fun to witness. I think that would have been fun to make us entertained by the humans when caused, and then when caused on screen, have him be more insane, have him be even more batshit crazy. I mean, there's a bit where he stares some golfers, but it's so brief. Isn't it, let him tear up the golf course. Let him, take one of those things that you put, and he throws it and impales someone. Or he uses it, and then you have like a big old... Like, really go for it. Really go for broke on it. And Sally... as dumb as it sounds, they kind of took this a bit too seriously. So it comes off more dull than it should be. You get bits with the military attacks, and the humans are able to get Lady Khan out. And like I said, there's some violence in it. There's points where King Kong at the end gets shot to ever-loving shit. Blood squibs, bloody. But the effects hamper it. The effects don't hold up. When you see the kid Khan, it's a terrible looking effect. Terrible. And yeah, the movie just... The music is alright for what it needs to be. The direction is kind of... There's not much to the direction in terms of style. I'm sure the director took this as just, hey, it's a paycheck. I did the first one. I'll do this. And I read up that apparently he was going through a lot of issues and troubles, so he didn't really give a shit. Like, he would do stuff. And I don't know if this is true, but I heard that... I don't know if it was this one or the first one, that he walked off and someone else finished the job. I don't know if it was this movie or if it was another movie. or in the previous one. I can't remember which one, but it seems like no one really cared about making the film. Maybe John Ashton. Like John Ashton, he's chewing the scenery a bit as Lieutenant Colonel. I think he kind of knew what movie he was in, and he was having a bit of fun as the crazy military guy. I think if everyone was kind of on his page, or hell, if he brought in like a Larry Cohen to bring a good sense of humor to it, or that type of thing, I think it would have been more interesting, more memorable. But like I said, if you watch it, some people don't think it's just too ridiculous, but at the same time, it's not exciting or fast paced enough to fulfill the fun B movie ridiculous nature. If you want to take it seriously, you're not, because it starts with a damn stuff with a big artificial heart and all this other shit, and Khan and Lady Khan trying to get it on like Donkey Kong, and little kids might be freaked out by Khan tearing people in half, or him getting shot to shit in really bloody style. Adults will laugh at the effects. Again, when you see the kid Khan, it really does look like one of those old Jerry Lewis, like those old movies back in the day where a guy just dressed up as a monkey in a monkey suit, like one of those Three Stooges shorts. That's really what it looks like. The effects were not up to par. And I said the humans, other than John Ashton, like Linda Hamilton's pretty boring and definitely one of her worst performances. Again, Brian Kerwin, it's like he reminds me of someone, and I'm more thinking of who he reminds me of than caring about his performance. And like I said, other than some moments to laugh at, the moment with the rednecks probably being the most memorable bit, there's not a whole lot to venture and talk about with this movie. And, I mean, my favorite Khan films are Kong Skull Island and King Kong 1933. I mean, it's not as up its own ass and over 3.5 hours like Peter Jackson's King Kong. I mean, I could watch this movie probably 3 times in the span of watching that movie. Because people go, well, which is better? Again, to me, it's... I could watch the 76 King Kong because that felt a bit more in its consistent tone was trying to be. Like I said, Kong Skull Island and King Kong 1933 are the King Kongs I prefer. I would say those two are the ones I like. And in 76 one I could deal with. After that, Godzilla vs. Kong, and this one, I don't know. Watch it again. Probably as a kid, I liked this a little bit more, just because, hey, it's King Kong, yay! But watch it now, you get its reputation, and it deserves reputation. And like I said, I kind of wish it went more for its game buster insanity. I think that would have made it more of a funny, movie. But with that said, thanks for watching. Take care. We'll see you guys later.